Hello YouTube, so in today's video we're going to discuss a couple of, in my opinion, the most important training mistakes that you should avoid because they are definitely killing your gains. So those are not diet mistakes or lifestyle mistakes. We'll make a separate video on those too. But in today's video we're just going to focus on training mistakes. So basically the things that you're doing wrong when it comes to your training. So you should definitely make sure that you're not doing them, or in case you are, make sure that you fix that. So first one that is also very important one is overtraining. So oftentimes we have that mentality that the more time we spend at the gym, the more sets we do, the more exercises we do, the less rest days we take, the more sets we take to failure, beyond failure, the more drop sets we do, the more overall effort we put in, the more results we're gonna get out. And yes, that's definitely true, but only up to a point. Up to a point when we can recover from all that, When we pass that point and get ourselves into the state of overtraining, we are not actually getting more results, from it, but we are doing completely the opposite. So we are actually hurting our progress and we are not making any gains, or in some extreme cases, we might be even losing gains. Because you only make gains if you recover from the training session that you did. If you don't, on the other hand, then guess what? You don't make gains. So for example, if I train my legs today and I completely smash them, and then I train them again tomorrow and again in 2 days, and I do that for the whole week, will I make more gains just because I was so savage and I smashed my legs every day in the week? Well, unfortunately not. I would be lucky to just not make gains, but it might even happen that I would lose gains because I would be overwhelming my recovery so much that muscle would start to destroy itself. This was obviously an extreme case, but you get my point, right? So you need to be recovering from your training sessions if you want to make gains. So if you have symptoms of overtraining and you know that you're overtrained, then you need to do something about it, right? Either you decrease the volume a little bit, or you implement in more rest days, or for example, you improve your sleep, or you increase your food, or you increase your hormones, or you just do something about it, because you need to make sure that your recovery is on point. Otherwise, you're not making gains. So definitely pay attention to that and make sure that you are not overtraining. Now moving on to second mistake people make when it comes to training that is killing your gains, and that is undertraining. So that's completely the opposite of overtraining. And it's also a very important one. Many people are training like a pussies. They simply don't train hard enough. So you need to find a sweet spot, right? You shouldn't be overtraining, but you also shouldn't be undertraining. So you need to push yourself hard enough, and you need to be training either to failure or very close to failure. So definitely don't be one of these guys that goes to the gym, picks the weight, and then he ends his set with 6 reps in a tank or even more, right? Because by doing that, if you don't push yourself close to failure enough, you're not gonna make gains. I mean, maybe you'll get a little bit of results if you are like a total newbie, but once you get a little bit more advanced, you need to push yourself harder. Otherwise, you can't expect much results from that. You shouldn't be training like a pussy, right? You need to push yourself in the gym hard enough so you stimulate muscle growth. There needs to be a stimulus for growth. So you need to signal to your muscles. They need to get a signal. Hey, he's training harder than he did last week. He's picked up heavier dumbbells and he's putting more stress on us than he did last week. Therefore, we need to get stronger, we need to get bigger, so we adapt and we get used to this new stress that he's putting on us. But if you're not doing that, if you're just going to the gym every week and you train the same, so you don't push yourself hard enough, you just pick same weights all the time, do same weight, same reps, same sets, then you're not creating this signal, this stimulus for muscles to grow. Therefore, they don't need to grow. Why would they grow if they're already used to doing this weight? They don't need to get stronger in order to do something they're already used to be doing, So that's why you need to be pushing yourself hard enough, and you need to train for progressive overload. So you need to continuously, progressively over the time be increasing your training intensity, so you're constantly providing your muscles. So you're giving them a reason to grow, to get bigger and to get stronger. So that was point number 2. Mistake number 2, undertraining, right? So you shouldn't be overtraining, but you also shouldn't be undertraining. You need to find the sweet spot. You should be training hard enough so you provide the stimulus for growth, but at the same time, you should be monitoring your recovery so you are making sure that you recover from the training sessions that you do. Moving on to the third mistake that is killing your gains, and that is not using proper technique, ego lifting, and not using full range of motion. So I put them all in one because they go hand in hand with one another. So not using proper technique or ego lifting, like if you are not sure whether you're performing some exercise correctly or not, then you can always type on YouTube the name of their exercise, how to do this exercise, and you'll get plenty of tutorials on how to do it. So definitely make sure that you perform exercise correctly. If you're ego lifting though, don't be ego lifting, right? You want to be working the muscle that you're working correctly. So if you're doing biceps, then you want to be doing biceps. You don't want to be doing your back just because you want to look more impressive and lift more weight, right? So you want to be isolating biceps and lifting weight with your biceps and not throwing the weight and involving more back than your biceps, right? And also you want to be using full range of motion. So you want to go all the way up, all the way down with most exercises, with some exceptions being, for example, squat, right? Some people, their joints don't feel very good if they, for example, squat ass to the grass. So in those exceptions, of course, you don't need to be doing full range of motion. But if it's not causing you any joint problems or anything like that, then with most exercises, I really recommend you to do full range of motion. So you recruit all the muscle fibers, therefore stimulate the most muscle growth. So then a fourth training mistake that is killing your gains is focusing too much on isolation exercises and not enough on compound exercises. So for example, I see many girls, definitely not all girls, but like many girls that go into the gym that somehow avoid squatting or leg pressing. I don't know really why, but they like to stick to those isolation leg exercises like leg extensions, leg curls, adductor machine, abductor machine, donkey kicks, and definitely all those exercises are great, I'm not saying they're bad, but they're certainly not optimal. It's not optimal to only focus on those exercises and not do compound lifts, because we all know that compound movements provide the most muscle growth. So you definitely should be focusing more on progressive overload on squats, leg press, deadlift, for example, and then you throw those isolation exercises at the end of the workout to isolate the muscle a little bit, but they shouldn't be like the main thing in your workout, and you shouldn't be sacrificing compound movements for the sake of doing more isolation movements, So if you want optimal results, you need to put more emphasis on progression on compound lifts, and then you use isolation at the end of your workout, of course, but don't be doing the opposite, right? And same goes with guys, of course, too. So I don't just point finger on girls. I just gave an example. Like guys, on the other hand, usually do too much of those cable chest flies and all these different fly variations for chest, and too little emphasis on the heavy chest presses, which we all know that are the best muscle builders. And same goes with pretty much almost any muscle group. So you should first primarily focus on progression on the compound lifts, and then you move on to isolation. So you don't just do isolation and no compound, right? Or too much just isolation and then just 1 or 2 sets of compounds, right? And then, okay, so that was it for mistake number 4. Now moving on to 5th mistake, training mistake that is killing your gains. And that is, how to say, training at the worst part of the day. So that would depend on a person. So I'm not saying the worst part, but the worst part of the day for you. So don't go to the gym at the part of the day when you are the most, how to say, tired and depleted, For example, if you have an 8-hour work and you come home and you are like tired as fuck, maybe it's not the best idea to just go and hit the gym right after the work, but maybe go home, get a little bit of food in, take a half an hour nap so you replenish your energy a little bit, and then go to the gym, right? So, of course, I understand that you have different duties in life and not everybody is a professional bodybuilder that has ideal circumstances for training, but just try to play around smartly a little bit, so you don't go to the gym at the time of the day when you're like the most out of energy. I mean, of course, it's not possible every time. Like, for example, if you're like super busy and have a lot of work, then you're forced to go at that time when you have those 2 hours for yourself, right? But if there's a possibility to maybe take a little nap before, to maybe get 1 or 2 meals extra in, so you're not like the most smashed when you go to the gym, then definitely do that, right? And same goes with training in the morning. I know many people like to train first thing in the morning very early, but they somehow don't have appetite to eat a big breakfast. So what you can do in that case you can, for example, have a bigger dinner. So you prime yourself the day before for the next morning workout. So you refill those glycogen reserves, and then you wake up, you're ready to go, and then you just have like your post-workout meal and you should be pretty much fine. And just do simple things like that will contribute to you having better training session and making more gains. Now moving on to sixth training mistake that is killing your gains, and that is not warming up properly. And what I mean by that, either not warming up enough or warming up too much, like with too heavy weight and too many reps. So first, let's get to not warming up enough. So you definitely want to do a couple of warm-up sets before you go to heavy weight. So for example, if you're doing squats, you don't pick whatever kilos you're doing for your top set. Let's say it's 180 kilos. You don't go straight into 180 kilos, because chances are that you'll get injured. And not only that, even if you're lucky and you don't get injured, you won't lift as much because your muscles won't be ready for it, you won't be warmed up, and you simply won't be as strong, right? As if you were to warm up properly. So you want to do a couple of warm-up sets, especially if that is your first exercise. I would do like 3, sometimes maybe even 4 warm-up sets before going into top set. And those warm-up sets are not heavy, so you shouldn't go too hard on them, right? You just pick the light weight, then you do maybe 5 to 8 reps, then you increase the weight a little bit, you do again 5 to 8 reps, then you increase the weight a little bit, you do maybe 4 reps, and then you increase the weight a little bit, you do 2-3 reps, and then you move on to top set, right? Definitely don't do the other thing that I mentioned. So yes, warm up, do enough warm-up sets, make sure that you're ready for the heavy weight, but also make sure that you don't go too crazy on warm-up sets, because you don't want to be burning the glycogen and taking the strength away from your top set. So for example, don't go too heavy on your warm-up sets and don't do too many reps on your warm-up sets. So you don't want to be doing like 110 kilos for 20 reps, because that is burning your glycogen reserves. Therefore, it will have an impact on your strength at the top set. So yeah, pretty much simple as that. Make sure that you warm up properly. So enough warm-up sets, make sure that you warm up, that you're well prepared before you go into heavy weight. First, because you want lower risk of injury, and second, because you will be stronger that way. But again, don't go too crazy and too heavy on your warm-up sets. Don't make your warm-up sets working sets, because that will take away from your strength at the top set. And then moving on to 7th training mistake that is killing your gains, and that is doing cardio before your training session. So you never ever want to be doing cardio before you go do weights. Why? Well, simply because you're burning your glycogen reserves. Therefore, if you do cardio before your training session, weight training session, you will not be as strong. Your performance will be much worse than if you were to do training session first and then cardio. Now, if being better at doing cardio, for example, at riding the bike, is more important to you than strength and muscle gains, then sure, you should be doing cardio first and then weights. But if you're a bodybuilder or powerlifter and your main goal is to optimize muscle and strength gains, then you should be doing first weights and then you do cardio. And that's pretty much it for today's video. Those are, in my opinion, 7 big training mistakes that are definitely killing your gains. So you should be making sure that you're not doing them, or if you are doing them, then fix it, stop doing them. Make sure that you don't overtrain. Make sure that you don't undertrain. Make sure that you don't ego lift, that you use proper technique, and that you do full range of motion. Make sure that you use compound exercises. So first you do compounds and then you do isolation. So you don't do just isolation and avoid compounds if you want optimal muscle gains. Make sure that you train at the time of the day where it works the best for you, when it works the best for you, if that is possible, of course. Make sure that you warm up properly, and make sure that you do first weights and then cardio, so that you're not doing cardio right before the weights. And that is it for today's video. Hope you find my video useful. Like always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment to support the channel's growth, and see you next video.